In a previous video on this channel, we ended our exploration at the site of the old Haxey Junction railway station. This station saw the coming together of 3 railway lines, and in this video we're going to explore one of those lines, the Isle of Axholme Joint Railway. So come and join us as we take another path to the past. For the Axholme Joint Railway, or the Isle of Axholme Light Railway branch, there's quite a lot of bits of it in evidence around the back of houses in the villages of Graizelound, Haxey, Epworth. So we're starting off at Graizelound because we know there's a lovely arch and a bit of a tunnel just about a couple of 100 yards ahead of us. So first up we have this lovely arch bridge with the line of the railway above it. Lovely red bricks, really nice design, very picturesque, and still standing at the end of this track we just walked down. And yes, just peek off to the right, another little treat coming up in a minute, but firstly we'll investigate this bridge and what is left of the track bed that is accessible. So there's no obvious path up to the top, but in the spirit of trekking and adventure we're going to get up there and see what is on the track bed. We think it's going to be very overgrown. Could be barking up the wrong tree here, but it says AJL. I wonder if that's Axholme Joint something. So as you can see, it took a little bit of effort to get up the embankment here and onto the track bed. I think there was a branch had fallen down across what had previously been a path, and I found some nettles too. Well, that went okay, apart from putting my hand in some stinging nettles, for which I'm going to ask you to give this video a like. So you can see the track bed quite clearly here, but overgrown as you go off in that direction towards Haxey, and blocked off as you go off in that direction towards the end of the line, which was called Haxey Junction, a little bit further down in a village called Graizelound, or Graizelound on the old maps. It changes. So reasonably high up here, probably 10 to 12 feet above the level of this field. Now you can see a path going off in that direction. There is a tunnel underneath this line. We're going to explore now with the odd name of Ted Cooper Trod. Did he? I think we just about made it down safely for future episodes of Paths to the Past. So what do we reckon Ted Cooper Trod was?
Not sure.
I'm hazarding a guess at its access to the field. He didn't want, whoever Ted Cooper was, access to his field blocked off by the railway, so they had to build this, well, human height little tunnel. Wonderful. So just about, well, I'm about 5'10", so this is probably about 6'2" high, and I'd say about a chain long, length of a cricket pitch, about 22 yards in old money. What's that, about 21 metres in new money.
Yeah, it brings you out into a nice wide field.
And when you come out of the trod, you emerge, as we saw from the top of the railway track bed, into this lovely field, and probably Ted Cooper's farm. What's one of those buildings over there? We'll have a look online, see if we can find out any further information about who Ted Cooper was and the history of his trod. Well, it turns out that Ted Cooper is a late local councillor from Haxey who loved to walk. He called his walks trods, so when he died they thought it appropriate to name this particular walk after him.
So the Ted Cooper Trod goes from that way to this way. So it could be that it was put there so he could get from one field to another field.
Indeed, what we have here is one of several occupation underbridges on the line, so people like Ted Cooper's ancestors, who were farmers in the area, could get from one part of their land to another. We're actually here on this old map. So we leave those two rather splendid pieces of railway architecture and drive up to the village of Haxey, which you can see from this drone footage. So about a mile further north from the previous location, we're actually at the site where the old level crossing at Haxey used to cross the main road behind me. The railway station was about 200 yards down there, no longer in existence, but you can walk part of the old line in this direction. So we're going to take you up there and see what we can find.
So this line opened in 1904.
That's right, and initially it carried both goods and passengers between Goole and Haxey Junction and then further on. But with the introduction of bus services to the Isle of Axholme in the 1920s, the passenger side of the line gradually went in decline, and I think it closed to passengers in 1933. Carried on as a goods line till 1955, but is long since gone. So we'll see what evidence of the old railway we can find in the next mile or so as we go northwards from Haxey. So there's very little physical evidence, but delving into the archives, we found here a presentation to a retiring station master, cutlery and plate, a good collection for him there. And we found that one of the station porters was taken prisoner in 1918 by the Germans. So for much of its life, this railway was known as the Axholme Joint Railway. Joint because it was the amalgamation of two ideas. One was the Goole and Marshlands Railway, which was further north, and the other was the Isle of Axholme Light Railway. Joined together, they made about 19 miles worth of track and was about 26 miles, I think, if we include all the little branch lines that came off it to farms and various works. We found that Haxey Town Station was often a hive of activity. Here we had somebody offering shoe repairs on the station whilst he waited. There was a bridge just coming up in front of us across the track, but I think that is a newish bridge between a couple of housing estates. So we'll see if we can locate it on an old map. Indeed we did, on this map just after the railway was opened in the early 1900s. If we said it was 1940s, you wouldn't disagree. So we'll have a look on the latest OS map I can find. That's an old map before the line closed, which was about 1950, and see if it's located on there. We went two steps better than that. Firstly, we found this lovely old photograph of the original bridge in place, and then this newspaper report saying how it was going to be replaced in 1955. So as well as goods being carried and commuters being carried to work, we also found evidence of pleasure trips to Blackpool and Bridlington, day trips for the people who lived along the line. So there is a story that although this line closed to passenger traffic in the 1930s, just before it was lifted, a local school teacher at Crowell, North Axholme School, actually commissioned a special train to take many of the pupils on one last ride along this line. Love it when people commemorate and respect the heritage and pass the memory of it onto future generations. So some of the children who took part in that final ride will still be alive today and have actual memories of riding this line. Perhaps you or someone you know took part. Let us know in the comments below if so. So walking through this deep cutting here, it was actually known as the Haxey cutting when it was being made, and once again we have a lovely photograph of work being done to make that cutting in the 1900s. Very steep slope here, so I think there's been a bit of infill of the line. No, actually I think the line went in that direction through there. Yeah, so the line goes along through there. We go up over the slope and round it. But before the line was filled in, there was this overbridge allowing traffic to pass over and the line to pass under, which we think was at this point on this old 1907 map where the school is now. Again, one of Dr Townley's photographs showing construction of that cutting and the bridge in the background. It's the VE Day 80 celebrations, as you can see. A lot of old RAF bases in this particular area of Lincolnshire, so it's been well commemorated, which is great to see. Trapbed down there, very overgrown, tons of knee-high nettles, so if anybody fancies coming and filming down there, then please send a link on to us and we'd love to watch it. But we ain't going down there. I've already got nettled back at the Ted Tunnel. So what's this then, Dawn?
Carving of a nature reserve, so I think it's...
What have we got there then in terms of animals?
Got an owl.
Yeah.
Some kind of beaver, mouse. Is that a butterfly or a... Yeah, butterfly.
Looks like a fish down there.
It looks to be, no, I think it's a bird actually.
Right, top nature knowledge on this channel.
Yeah.
So as we can see, this line is now the Axholme Line Local Nature Reserve, so lots for nature lovers, including that rather striking statue there. Well, let's see what we can see of the old railway line.
So you can see now where the embankment is meeting the line we're on again, so I reckon we're now back on the line.
Yeah, this is one of those lines where you can walk on it intermittently, then it becomes private land and probably overgrown. Then there's sections where there's no trace of a line at all because it's been ploughed over, and then you get a little bit which forms part of a public footpath and trail like the bit we're on now. So a bit hit and miss, intermittent walking or access to the old Axholme joint railway route.
So lots of it now disappeared for good. I don't think this is anything to do with the railway, but it looks like people have been leaving ribbons here for some, well, for some cause. I'm not sure what it is.
If you're local to Haxey, do you know why these ribbons are tied to the tree? The interesting place, Haxey, it's actually got two First World War memorials to the same bunch of people, and that's because the original memorial was placed at the foot of the Anglican church at one end of the village. Now, a local bigwig businessman who was involved with the Methodist church, he didn't like the fact that the Anglican church had almost co-opted the memorialisation of war outside their church. So he had another different memorial built at the far end of the village, which he thought was far enough away from the Anglican church. So culture wars back in the 1920s. So another footbridge across the track bed here. Again, we'll try and establish when this was built. Was it after when the line had closed? Is it to carry maybe a farm track across the old track bed? Or is it older than the 1950s?
It certainly looks about the same age as the one back there, doesn't it?
It does. And once again, we're very lucky to have this photograph of the original bridge in place.
Haxey is also home to the old tradition of the Haxey hood.
That took some effort.
It did.
So yeah, that is a tradition where teams of almost like rugby scrums try and push a hood towards a various pub. Once they get to a pub, it stays there until the next event, which takes place around the 6th of January each year, the 12th day of Christmas.
This really is a beautiful line to walk on, and we really would recommend it to anybody.
And the third, well, even higher footbridge by the looks of it.
Same design as the two back there.
Very, very high for a footbridge over a railway. Which we think was at this point on the old map about 1.25 miles up the line from Haxey. So it's going to walk up this cutting here. There's a post up there we can see if it's evidence of the old railway or not. We've not found a lot so far, but we didn't expect to find anything because it was a light railway and not in a very built-up area. It's actually another footpath which runs slightly parallel to the track bed beneath us, but I think if we follow this, we'll come back down to it. So this post, no,
probably just a
wooden post. The changing face of the aisle. Standing here 100 years ago, you might be hit by a train. So we'll look into the British Newspaper Archive and see if anybody was actually hit by a train standing here 100 years ago. Fortunately, no reports of fatalities were found.
And then if you were stood here 2,000 years ago, you would be in a forest.
And if you were here 500 years ago, you might have had to swim because the River Trent, Idle, Torn and Don do not follow the routes of Tate now, but they had to be altered by somebody called, I think, Cornelius Vermuyden. And we've done a parkrun this morning and it was called the Vermuyden Way Parkrun, so surrounded by centuries of history. The Isle of Axholme was famous for celery growing. Love a piece of celery dipped in hummus. So just ahead of us, I think the walkable trail part of this line runs out. How far have we gone so far, Dawn?
1.3 miles.
1.3 miles. So out and back, you're talking mental mass 2.6 and a bit. So it looks like it peters out. Yeah, I just see it bending round to the left and away from the line of the old track bed. Yeah, the line just above me to the right as we go down onto this field. So I think this is where, as I said, the walkable part of the line ends. So there'll probably be a bridge above here because we've got the embankment there and the embankment there leading on to Epworth. Let's go back up the other side and see if it does pick up the line again, but I don't think it does. I am wrong. We are back on the line. And I certainly won't be putting the drone up because we have telegraph wires above us. This section appears to have been tarmacked at some point. So we're going to head back to Haxey now, then drive over to Epworth and see if we can find the site of the old railway station there. I don't think any of it is in existence. I think it's actually some sort of trading post shop now. Talking of Epworth, one way the line was used, particularly at weekends, quite a few tourists used to come in to visit Epworth because it was the birthplace of the Wesley brothers, John and Charles, founders of the Methodist movement. So yeah, lots of people used to go. In fact, as a child, I remember being taken by my parents on a coach journey over from Hull all the way down to Epworth. I have vague memories of visiting Wesley parsonage as a child, so you know, people still making pilgrimages, if you like, there into the 1970s and 80s. So next and final stop is this lane on the outskirts of Epworth. So having come the 2.5 miles up to Epworth, the most visible remains of the railway here, because there's absolutely no sign of the railway station where we looked, is this bridge, which goes across one of the side roads on the outskirts of the town. It's obviously not walkable. So here we can see the bridge supports in place in the early 1900s, but before the embankment was put up on either side. So a really interesting photograph this of the building of the Axholme Joint Railway. Yeah, totally enclosed on both sides as people's private land and inaccessible as far as I can make out. So yes, right on the outskirts of Epworth, because I'm now standing outside the Epworth boundary. Another AJL sign, maybe Axholme Joint Line, bridge number 16 perhaps. Same painted on the bridge on the other side. And just look at the top of the bridge. You can see that line of bricks possibly, where the extra layer was put in to bring the bridge across the road. So there ends our first video on the Axholme Joint Railway. Please give it a like to help with our algorithms, as we are a new and growing channel. We will be exploring further parts of the Axholme Joint Railway in future episodes of Past the Past, including magnificent swing bridge at Crowell and various other viaducts which cross the railway. So please subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with what we've got coming next.
So we hope that you can join us next time, where every journey begins with a path to the past.